as we're thinking about not just protecting the standards and the values of our community and the things that are appropriate, but also as we're moving our students towards a sense of belonging. I think it's so valuable to know how to lead them through that.
I think what's really critical, and I said it before, and I think you said it, is remember when you transitioned. I forget how difficult it is. Like that transition was difficult. Now I walk into a room and I can command almost any room because of my confidence and my years of experience.
Yeah.
And I don't think about transition. I'm like, I'm going to like Conor McGregor, not a big fan, but he's like, I'm not here to take part. I'm here to take over. Right. It's like, so now when I walk into a room, it's like, I'm not taking part, I'm taking over.
Yeah.
And so, but when I was first coming up, I was nervous wreck. And so we, as people have done it for so long, have got to remember the moments where we were scared.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rachel Phillips-Buck, VP for Student Success. This is Cap and Gown. I'm joined today by Mr. Anthony Melchiori. Hello, sir.
Hello, young lady. How are you?
Well, I'm pretty happy because, we went for a long time where we kind of were missing each other. And now this is like, we're back to every other week. So I'm pretty happy about it.
Well, I'm happy about it too, because anytime I'm with you, I learn something.
Well, good. I'm so glad. And you are in Florida today, correct?
Right. And I can't see myself. So can you see me?
I can see you. If you look strange, I'll tell you. Don't worry.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you guys for joining us. I see Daniel, hey, from Montreat. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. I know some of you join us later through our tap link. You're listening to us as a podcast. So thank you, as always, for joining us. We have a lot of exciting things to talk about today. We have an episode that we're going to go over. So if you are joining us on podcast and you want access to any of our previous content, taplink.cc/earth resources. I have some pictures, but I don't have any of you or me today. So sorry, but I found some. Oh, your daughter's playing volleyball?
Yes.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, well, she's not playing because she hurt her knee, but she's there. She's keeping score. She's doing the book. She's there.
That's awesome. So did she take this picture or did you get to go to this game?
Oh, I get to go. Yeah.
Good. That's so much fun. It's always nice. I don't know if I told you that Shauna, one of my colleagues, was an All-American volleyball player and is about to be inducted into the Volleyball Hall of Fame at ACU.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Wow.
So very exciting. So that's going to happen in October. But when she was playing, we used to love to go and watch her. Volleyball is such a fun sport to watch. Yeah, okay, I want to show you this picture that I found about security. So this person tried to log into a website and they told him that your password is already used by this other person. Isn't that terrible? So basically they can log in. It says this password is already used by Starboy98. Try another one. So basically he can go and log in as Starboy98. If our CIO saw this, he would have a heart attack.
But where was this?
I don't know. Somebody posted a picture of some software they were trying to join, and that's the message they gave it.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's not going great, right? And then the last picture I have for you is this. This is a student who has written a temporary parking pass, and it says, "I'm a student at UTSA. I currently only have $1.67 in my bank account. However, Friday, when I get paid, I will buy my parking permit. Thank you for understanding. Best wishes, broke."
I'd let that kid park there for the rest of his life.
I know. Wouldn't you be like, you're good? I'm just going to give you a pass on this deal.
You're good. And here's a gift certificate to Starbucks for the rest of your life.
I know. I like here's how I'm going to manage this.
Right.
Okay. So we have, it's time for 20 questions. As always, I only have 19. Today we are doing this or that. Okay. So I'm just going to give you two options and you have to choose between them, your preference.
Got it.
Okay. Alaska or Maine?
Alaska.
The subway or the bus?
Bus.
Being an archer or a fisherman?
Fisherman.
winter or summer?
Both.
Anthony, you can't pick both.
Winter.
Okay. A moped or a motorcycle?
Moped.
Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi. No Coke, Pepsi.
7-Up or Sprite?
7-Up.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
A house that is too small or a house that is too big?
Too big.
Ranch Doritos or nacho Doritos?
Nachos.
Owning the biggest ranch or the tallest building?
Tallest building.
Pen or pencil?
Pen.
Paper or plastic?
Pencil.
Pencil?
Pencil.
Okay. Paper or plastic?
Paper.
Sweet tea or unsweet tea?
Unsweet tea.
Off the kids' meal, chicken nuggets or mac and cheese?
Off the kids' meal, chicken nuggets.
Your Thai food, spicy 1 or spicy 5?
Oh, 1, like -1, like almost not spicy.
Okay. Lobster or crab?
Lobster, crab, lobster, crab. The crab that I got from Alaska when we dug a hole, that
Ooh.
crab. But other than that, lobster.
Okay, that's good. That's a fair answer. And then jumping out of a plane or
Never.
extreme caving?
Number 2.
Okay, but listen, when I say extreme caving, I mean this. Can you do that?
Yeah, I've done it. You don't watch my show?
You've done this?
5-Star Secrets. Yes, we did it in Mexico.
No, I haven't seen. I mean,
It scared the living crap out of me, but not as much jumping out of a plane. It really did scare me.
I look at that picture. So those of you who can't see, it's like basically a man squished between 2 rocks, right? That's the kind of like extreme caving that we're talking about. That gives me so much anxiety.
Yeah. We did it in Tulum, Mexico, actually.
Okay.
And we were in a cave, and it had like a big pool. It was beautiful, and like a man-made pool, a regular pool. What is it called? It's called whatever. And they say, okay, this part is regular caving, this part's extreme caving. What do you want to do? And I'm like, all right. My director wanted the shot. I said, well, all right, we'll go over here. I got between 2 rocks like that, but I was standing up. I tapped out. I was like, I'm out. I'll do this, and then I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah, but I'm never jumping out of there.
Well, I knew that you didn't like that, but I thought maybe I could change your mind, but no. I'm gonna find something where you say jumping out of a plane. I'm gonna find a thing.
Okay. Talking to someone for an hour in a meeting with a monotone voice trying to teach me something, or jumping out of an airplane. Jumping out of an airplane.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. You did my work for me. I appreciate it. All right. Well, thank you for playing. I always learn something new. All right, we have the State of the Union today. We are going to talk about the features of community, the belonging process. I have a great episode for you and I to go through as a case study, and then I'm going to give you action items. As always, let's start with the State of the Union. So you guys know the State of the Union is kind of not doing a lot right now. But I do have some surveys that different groups have sent out to kind of collect information on what students are saying. So the first article, Inside Higher Ed Admissions Survey in a Wild Year. The summary is admission officers were really worried about filling their classes this year, and most of them did not make their class by May 1st. A lot of them were adding students already even into June and July. 59% of respondents said they were very concerned about meeting their enrollment goals for the fall. 32% said they were concerned. Only 4% said they were not concerned at all. So admissions has had a little bit of a rough time. Under half of admissions officers expect to enroll more students than last fall. This is interesting. Schools, 95% of campuses used test optional or test blind admission.
What percentage?
95.
95
Yes.
colleges across America made it optional?
No. 95% of colleges. And
I'm shocked by that number.
Yeah, isn't that surprising? Well, I mean, they just didn't know what to do because of COVID. So they said, forget about it. What's really interesting is in an industry where things move super slowly, everybody is like, we're doing this. 3/4 of admissions officers favor continuing test optionally indefinitely. So that is a really interesting development.
Okay,
Um,
can I ask you can I ask you a question? I
yeah.
don't mean to go off on a tangent. If you're making testing optional, how do I have a fair shot against a guy or a girl that has a 1600 SAT and I didn't give you my SAT score? Like, how do I have a fair shot?
So what they're doing is they're looking at high school GPA. That is
Mhm.
the equivalent measurement that they're looking at. One of the difficulties with that, though, I was just talking to a client yesterday and she was saying their admissions counselors are considering high school GPA, but they are not considering classes. So they're not ranking classes. So you took, 8 electives and you have a 4.0, whereas somebody was taking calculus and AP history and whatever, and they have a 3.8. Those are the 4.0 is actually not being weighted correctly, right?
Well, yeah,
So
but you know what? The good thing about that and bad thing from my perspective, because I know you want my perspective, right?
I do.
Um, you get kids like me that maybe didn't test well, but again, I probably, I put myself against, kids with 1600 SAT when I was, people that can read a room, people that think on their feet, people that have common sense. So maybe you'll get more people going like me that didn't have the grades, but that could still do well
Really
in a good
successful.
with good professors could do really well.
So what I like about this is that 55% of admissions counselors said because of their test blind admissions, they admitted more students of color because they were willing, like they didn't have the scores, but if the scores don't matter, then they would try. And so they admitted them. I think I'm challenging our schools to think about how we support those students who maybe are coming in with a GPA, a high school GPA that's lower than we would want, right? So interesting. Okay, you guys, if you have not read this article in Inside Higher Ed that's called Stop Treating Community Colleges as the fallback option or last resort, it is really, really good. Basically, it's written by Shauna Davis. It's an opinion piece. Shauna Davis is the strategy director for the community college section of Lumina. She writes this whole article about how branding colleges as a fallback plan is a terrible mistake. We hardly ever see community colleges positioned as a first choice in higher education. And what I love about community colleges is they're so different. So they are different shapes and sizes, different campuses. They can rival state universities. And then there's some of them are small schools. They have different degrees, different certificates. If you are kind of lumping all community colleges in together, you don't understand how varied they are. I think about one of our clients, McLennan Community College, which does an awesome job of serving their students. They rent bicycles to solve transportation problems. They have food pantries. They have social workers. They're helping people because it tends to be an older population find housing and jobs. I mean, they are doing a great job of supporting their students. And then I'm thinking about our smaller schools. You should be recruiting at community colleges. You should be going to find those schools and bring the students in for a 4-year degree. So awesome read. I would encourage everybody to read it. All right, last thing I have for us is an article about how pandemic has affected career planning for students. And Anthony, I picked this one for you. So it's a survey from Student Voice, 2,000 sophomores, juniors, and seniors. 25% of them say they're graduating earlier or later than they thought. 25% of them said they've decided to change what they do after graduation. But this is the part that I wanted to talk to you about. A quote from the article. Several students expressed a positive pandemic factor, more time during COVID-19 to think through their career options. Having been more isolated lends itself to introspection, notes Kevin Grubb, executive director of the Career Center. It's been an interesting opportunity for everyone to take stock of what's most important for them and what they want to do next. And he doesn't just mean the pandemic, really what it's done, the pandemic, the racial injustice we've seen, the political environment in this country, all of these things have brought values to the fore. What do you value? Conversations are happening faster and more deeply than they ever have. A focus on personal values is a positive for career decision-making, which I feel like you've said, right? Yeah. Like this is what's happening with our students is they've had a pause to say, I mean, well, if there's not a prescribed thing, then this is what I want to do. what's important to me, work-life balance, adventure, picking the place that I'm going to work. I think there's a lot of that going on with our students. And I think you've seen that even with your daughters, right?
Well, not only students or my children, it's happening with adults. It's happening with middle-aged people, retirees. It's happening with so many people. And I think the one thing that a lot of people don't talk about, and I've probably talked about it before, is we all went to zero. No matter where you were academically, 1600 SAT or 800 SAT, or you had money, you had a good job, you didn't have a good job. We all looked over and said, "Oh, you're here too? Oh,
Right.
you're here too? Wait, you were driving the Bentley and living in a big house. You're where I am right now." I
Yeah.
think I don't think we're really examining that enough. I think we all went to zero, and no one, obviously, the pandemic is tragic, but one of the things we've never experienced before is we're all at zero. Now, I'm not talking about racial injustice. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about simply that whether you were a rich guy, a white guy, a black, like we were all kind of like, we can't go anywhere. We all have to
Stuck
sit
at
in our
home.
house. And there was something really clearing about that, something very, just very honest about that, very basic about
Yeah.
that. And I think that's, so once you get everybody there, then it's like, okay, do I really want to go start chasing the guy with the Bentley again? Do I still want to go chase the bigger house? Do I want to chase that PhD? What am I doing that for? So
Yeah.
I think that's where it's coming from. And it's not just coming from students. I think it's just all of us.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's funny. I was talking to Suzanne the other day and she was talking about just her commute and the difference in like, do you want to commute for 2 hours one way or do you want to commute for 2 minutes, right? Or work from your home. I mean, those
It,
are the
it,
kinds of things that you're like, once you've experienced them, you're like, why were we doing this crazy stuff?
Yesterday, it happened to me for the first time. There's a development project that somebody wants me to consult on in Greece. It's a really big deal for this one island. And they wanted me to come in to meet with all the developer owners, whatever, yesterday at 3:00. And about 11:00, I was like, I got a gym appointment. I don't want to skip my trainer. I want to go to my trainer. If I go to my trainer, I can be out by 1:30. I go in 1:30, I can be out by 2:30, be in my house by 3. So I told them, I said, hey, can we do a Zoom? They're like, no problem. Like I made a personal like life choice right there.
Yeah.
It's like, was it important for me to probably break bread with these people? Probably. But I think we could break bread just as easily on Zoom. And if I lost something from it, I gained something by being able to work out. And I think like that really hit me. It was like, I didn't really want to go through the time and trouble of parking my car, going up to the building, meeting with them, and
Yeah.
then, who's vaccinated, who's not vaccinated. Do I wear a mask? Don't I wear a mask? I was like, you know what? So I understand it, man.
Yeah.
I truly, truly understand it.
I agree for sure. Okay. So oh, sorry. Listen, I'm terrible at taglines because I can never remember to say them. Okay. Sorry. Here we go. And that is the State of the Union. Jeez. I'm going to have to write a note to myself like, Rachel, remember to say the thing. All right. So we have been talking.
You were arguing with yourself. And I said, why is she arguing with herself?
All right. So we are almost at the end of our fall series. We've been talking about this article connected to Vincent Tinto. He gave a keynote at this school in Australia. He has this great line, access without support is not opportunity. You and I have talked about that before. We have walked through his list of conditions for student success, and today we are in involvement. And so at the very front of this show, I'm going to give us 2 examples of how we can think about involvement, and then we're going to go into your Hotel Impossible. I would just say, as I'm thinking about those conditions of student success, the people who are joining us, the people who listen to us throughout the week are so good at the support and the involvement piece that I don't want to preach to the choir about that, because they are so focused on creating community, providing opportunities for students to get connected. They have a lot of expertise in that. So I'm going to take a little bit of leeway as we talk about involvement. It's connected to the features of a community. So if you think about shared values, which means we believe this, or we do this, or we serve you if you have these shared values in a community, Membership identity, that is things like, who am I? How do I act? What do I believe in? Moral prescriptions, that is things like, who do we protect? What is intolerable? Who do we respect? And how do we show that respect? Those are questions all tied to moral prescriptions. And then insider understanding is, we don't have to explain because we feel seen, we feel understood, we feel comfortable, and we feel safe. Those are all of the elements of community. And you guys have heard me say before, the art of community, if you are not reading it, you should be. It is awesome. It gives you the 7 steps to creating community, which we have done before. But these elements come from that. You know you're in a community when you have each of these things. So related to that, as you're moving into community, and college friends, you will know, you will recognize this, the belonging process, how we're building belonging in our community is, we're starting with transition. And transition just means a new thing we've never done before. It's just uncomfortable. There's nothing to be done about it. So if you move to a new place and you have to get used to the rules and where's the grocery store and when is traffic and all of that stuff, that's just transition. There's nothing to be done. It's just difficult. We want to distract until we learn the rules of the thing. And then the next thing that Tinto says you should be doing is providing involvement opportunities. How do we provide space for students to get connected in our community? How do we provide those opportunities for them? And then you think about membership. They've moved through and now they're part of us, and that moves to a deeper sense of belonging. So I was thinking, Anthony, about transition for you when you were in the Air Force. That period, like when you first get there until you're like, okay, I think I understand the way things happen. Do you remember that transition piece?
I think I've waited my whole life for somebody to ask me that question. Wow.
Right.
I just, no one's ever asked me that question. Oh my God. Wow, that's a really good question. Again, you go from a kid that was a mama's boy, but his mom was running numbers for the mafia and everything was upside down. The FBI was outside my house and my life was upside down. And I just wanted to get away from this craziness in my life. And then I go in the military and they put me in Missouri. And I don't know how to buckle my belt buckle. And I get yelled at in basic training because I was having trouble with my belt buckle. I didn't know how to put my jacket. I mean, I was a mess. And then I was just looking at everybody. I was like, how are you functioning? I can barely survive this. And when I got there, it was dark and it was the missile base. So it was like a World War II base. And then little by little, we started getting the stealth bombers. So we got a better chow hall, a better fitness center and dorms, and things started transitioning. And I started to see like the Air Force was coming out of the 20th century, they were changing. And at the same time, they were changing into the stealth program. I was trying to changing. So I never actually thought about this before. So we were kind of, the Air Force and me, we grew together. And I would say in a very short period of time, that transition, it took me about a year to settle. And then I was just like, okay, I got this. But it was, I wanted to jump off any building that would let me throw myself off of it. Yeah. I was depressed. I was confused. I was like, I don't want to go back, but I don't know what the hell's going on here. So yeah, the transition was, I always say though, the military was great if you're going to transition, because when we take our kids and we put them in college, you don't have structure. You have your nice stuff and you can drink. You have all these things. In the Air Force, it's like, okay, we'll give you some freedom, but like you can't be partying all night. You got to show up for work. Like there's structure. Like it's training wheels. I just had this conversation. It's training wheels to the next level.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was a huge transition for me.
That's so interesting because it's, in higher education, that is the place where students slip, because a year of transition is a long time to not understand the rules and the culture and the language and the spaces and
going from jail to freedom. You're going from your family's house, and sometimes it feels like a jail, to complete another freedom. I went from jail to correctional custody. Then I got freedom.
Right. You're like, it was a slow transition. It was good for me.
Right.
Okay, so that transition and then moving people in. I mean, what you just described is exactly what I just had on the screen, right? Transition, super hard. You have opportunities for involvement, to learn how to do your belt, to learn how to be connected to other people, to learn how to whatever the stuff is. And then you get to a place where you're like, okay, now I'm a member. Like now I'm in it. And then this idea of engagement and a sense of belonging. This is where I should be, right?
Can I stop you there for a second?
Yeah.
Because I think this is where in business and in higher ed, we go wrong. Because the people that are responsible for transitioning these people forget what that transition felt like. So we can talk about, okay, we have to think about their transition. Think about your transition. Like you just made me stop after 40 years and realize like no one's ever asked me that question before.
Yeah.
Like no one said, what was that transition like? Well, that was holy crap, it almost killed me. And it wasn't going from my house to college where that transition is much larger.
Yeah.
I went from that to, okay, I still have to follow these rules and there's still somebody watching me. So that transition was hard. Going from like pulling the Band-Aid off and go, okay, there you go. You can go to a bar, you can drive, you can go with your friends. And oh, by the way, you have to study. But whatever, just figure it out. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's so funny that you say that because I have a very vivid memory of my mom dropping me off at college and she got in the car and she drove away. So she's disappearing and she lived in Indiana and I was in Texas. And I remember as she drove away thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to eat for dinner? Like that level of transition, right? Where I'm like, this is a thing that I have never had to think about before. And now all of a sudden, I have to decide what I'm going to do this evening. That change is a place where students oftentimes get stuck. So, okay, let's move to our hotel, but I'm going to use the features of community and that belonging process.
Sicily, crazy.
Sicily. So this is, okay, you guys, if you're joining us on podcast, I'm going to work really hard to try to describe these pictures, but I will just tell you that half of the pictures I'm going to show are Anthony's face as he's responding to things. And you should watch this episode, season 3, episode 15. This is in Palermo.
Before we go forward, can we have a moment of silence for that jacket I'm wearing? I left it on the plane on the way back to America. It was my favorite jacket.
Oh no, that's sad. Yes, it's a nice jacket. I like it. So this is Palermo. It's in Sicily. Your family is originally from Sicily, right?
Well, up until last December, I thought we were all from just Rome, but apparently my Italian blood, I have about 80% Italian blood. 65% of my Italian blood's from Sicily. I didn't think I had anybody from Sicily. So yes, I'm more Sicilian than anything else. Yeah, I didn't know that.
How interesting.
Well, my father's from Civitavecchia, which is south of Rome.
So you didn't know when you were here that you have 65% Sicilian?
No idea. Zero. I was so like not being able to like understand that that's my culture, but now I understand because they're crazy and they just love food and they don't really like they care about family, their friends, and everybody else can go scratch. And I was
That's
like, okay.
really funny because while you did this episode, I was like, Anthony really loves these people, like just very close to them, you know. So there you go.
I didn't realize that they were Sicilian. I was Sicilian. I had no idea.
Okay, so this hotel, what is it? It's the Salunto Mara.
Salunto Ma.
Salunto Ma. It is, I'm going to try to describe. So it is gorgeous. The pool is beautiful. The hotel is beautiful. The meeting space, not so much. It's sort of like a old school, like rust and yellow, painted rust and yellow. So I don't love it, but right outside of it is this gorgeous, gigantic patio that has a mountain as the view, like palm trees, the ocean. It is breathtaking. And as you're standing on this porch, you're like, this hotel is the 90th out of 96 hotels in Palermo. What is wrong, right?
And it's probably the nicest, like as far as like you ride on the water, the bones of it was probably the nicest.
It was gorgeous. You went to the rooms, they were clean, they were nice. You were like, hey, I would like to sleep with this curtain open so I can see outside. Do you sleep with the curtain open, Anthony?
Yeah, it's pretty light in my room. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you were like, this is a little bit broken, but okay, that's okay. But then you sit down with the owner, Mauricio, and the general manager. And sorry, guys, I have to set the stage so that we can talk about the crazy business. Okay. So this is Mauricio is leasing it from the owner. He's losing 15,000 euros a month. He's invested €1,000,000 so far. And the general manager, Lucia, is just like, I can't get anybody to do anything. It's their fault. They're not paying any attention to me. I don't know what's going on, basically. Is that a fair summary?
100%.
Yeah. So I hope you're joining us live or go back and look at the Zoom, because here's Anthony's face as they are telling his faces as they're telling him it's not their fault and sorry, they're losing tons of money. It's just like a look of, give me a break. I'm not buying this. And you guys are unbelievable. Did I read that right?
Yes. And can you do me a favor? Send me that picture, because I'm going to post that and I'm going to ask people to caption all these pictures.
I will. Like, you can just, anybody who knows you knows what kind of stuff you're listening to as your face is doing that, right?
I'll tell you exactly what I was thinking in that moment. Here's what I was thinking. You're a smart guy. I like you. You're pretty sharp. You got yourself into a mess. I just read your financials, and dude, do you know what you just did to yourself?
I know.
Because I remember reading those financials, saying to my producer, going, I'm going in to talk to him, and he's screwed. And like, well, why? I was like, well, read the contract. And I can't remember exactly why he was screwed.
Yeah,
he screwed himself.
No, he was in trouble because he thought the hotel was valued at 3 million. It was actually valued at 8 million.
Right.
He also had renegotiated to have an out to get his $1 million back, all of that kind of stuff, but he didn't get a contract. So he was gonna walk away, right? But they were like, okay, we'll give you some stuff, but then he didn't have it in writing anywhere.
Right. And the important part of the $3 to $8 million, he thought it was valued at 3 million, was valued at 8 million. The reason that's important, now, if you own a hotel that's worth $8 million, worth 3 million, you win. No, he didn't own it. So the carrot was 8 million. The carrot wasn't 3 million.
Right.
So when he got to the 3 million, he still had 5 million to pay off the loan. I can't remember why that was, but it was relatively complicated.
Yeah.
But I figured it out. I remember spending all night reading that contract.
It was a total disaster. So I want to talk to you though about the general manager, because this is the place. So there's like the leasing from owner Mauricio, but you really worked with the general manager, and there's so many places where you came back and said, you are not doing a good job of creating community. So I want to talk about that. The first example is you're walking around, and again, let me describe, there's like a globe light on the beach. On top of the globe light is a shot glass that is half filled with rainwater and sand in the bottom. This is you on the left. You have an expression like, let's examine what this is and what this tells us, right, about this community and this property. And you're saying nobody's walking around and caring about these little details, right? So this idea in community.
But again, I got to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I'm interrupting you a lot. Put that picture back on. Okay. You just said no one's caring about the little details.
Mm-hmm.
I have to take offense to that. Little detail. That's not a little detail.
That is true. Fair enough. Nobody is caring, period. How about that?
There
is
you
that
go.
better?
There you go. There you go.
You're like, you don't have to be paying attention to the details to know this shot glass is.
Right. I could see if like it was a little mark on a wall behind a door. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anthony's being OCD. Got it. But you're walking to the beach and there's a very dirty light with a broken light inside with a shot glass that's disgusting, that's been there probably for at least a week. It's not a little detail, because that is the money shot. I'm on the beach.
Right. So if we think about those elements of community and the questions that I asked that I said are related to all of those things, when we're looking at that picture, it's like, what do we believe? Well, we learn something about what we believe, right? When you think you can just leave that out there. How do we act? No standard. What is intolerable? Which is so interesting to me, Anthony, because when you bring Lucia out to look at this, and you're like, is this okay with you? And she said, well, you know, they don't see it, or they pretend not to see it, basically. And this idea of like, if a thing is intolerable, you can't help but see it. It is like such an anathema to you that you would be like, you just made my brain explode because I saw this thing. There is no culture of that there, right?
Right. There's many times where there's opportunities like that around my hotels when I take over, and I get the whole team. I have 50 people around that shot class going, let's talk about the shot class. Like,
Yeah.
you know how many times I've done that? I mean, I can bore you with details, but like, let's talk, let's have a seminar about the shot class. Let's talk about what
Yeah.
this represents. This represents you. This represents me. This represents $8 million, the hotel's value. This represents somebody getting on a plane, traveling because they saw a picture, and they go to the beach and they can't wait because you're saying it's breathtaking. It's beautiful. You see those pictures, you're like, I want to be there. And then this shot glass represents all of the hard work that, whether it be the pictures, whether it be everybody getting in uniform that day, whether it be spending the money on the hotel, that shot glass kills everything.
Yeah. So I think about that with our people in higher education, and likely they don't have the same response to sort of visual indicators of quality. But I know for everybody who's joined us, there are ways that people would treat your students, or there are ways that students would treat each other that would be intolerable to you in your community, that you would be like, hey, come here. We are going to talk about the fact that that's not what we do here, right? And it is that modeling and intervention to say, in this moment, we have to pause and address it, because it is so far from what we do in our community that it's intolerable. I cannot just let it be, right? So
It's just so funny when you said it the way you said it. I was just thinking about your daughter. I said, your daughter's heard that a few times.
like that sounded like a mom voice. Yes, I have probably said that. Okay, so I want to give another example of this. As we're looking at community, this poor chef, again, this is Anthony's face as he's looking at the chef. I don't know how to describe it other than kind of disbelief and amazement and like confusion, and it's mostly disbelief and confusion. Like, I don't know what you were telling me or why, but this is that fair?
Yes, for a number of reasons, but just to underline that, I've never had better food in my life than in Sicily. So that this kitchen and this menu and this chef exist in Sicily, it's like I went to drink a beer and I just got water. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, this is the
Oh,
Anthony.
that tasted worse than it looks.
That is my question. I have written down. Did it really taste as bad as it looks?
Worse.
Okay. It's like a weird, sorry guys, you should be watching this, but it's like a weird meat roll. I don't really understand. And then there's octopus, and then it looks terrible. It actually looks like plastic food a little bit. What I want to say about the chef is that, first of all, he doesn't have a team. He's all by himself, right? There's no support for him. I was thinking about questions of community, like, what do we share? What do we respect? How do we show our respect? Well, Lucia refused to eat this man's food. She sat next to you while you ate it, and she's like, I'm not eating that. The general manager is not eating the food of the chef. This is a place where it's like, hey, your culture that you've built here is we're not respectful to each other. We don't share things together. I don't value your work. There is no feeling of a sense of belonging or transition. It's just like, I don't know what he's doing. He's creating this gross food and I'm just sitting here watching it, which is completely strange.
And this is what's great about the way we shot our show. If you had a script, you'd be like, okay, Anthony, you sit down, you eat the food, and the owner or the general manager refuses to eat the food of her chef. And I'm like, no, that's not reality. Have a writer rewrite that because that would never happen.
Because it would never happen.
But it happened.
What I think is relevant there is this idea of it is the opposite of involvement opportunity. Like she had an opportunity to be involved, to be connected, to be in community. And what she said was, I'm not doing it.
Well, there's very, to me, this is really critical of whether it be your professor or dean or in the workplace, in a business, is the reason she's not connected is because it takes confrontation. Now, there's two types of confrontation. There's confrontation of, okay, these are the standards. These are the consequences. We don't want to have these consequences, but if you break the rules, this is what's going to happen. That's confrontation that should be in every business and every school. Then there's the confrontation where it's like, okay, my confrontation typically is because I go into places that are way too, it's too, I have no time. I have no time. I have like 2 seconds to turn the place around. So I have no time for this whole long process of confrontation. My confrontation is more in your face. You got to step up. You got to get it. But you have to pick one. When you go into a place and there's standards for guests or students, you've got to stand up. And you don't have to be mean, getting people's faces, but there's got to be a moment of confrontation. Could be gentle confrontation. You could use a different word. It could be discussion. Use whatever word you want. But like you just said, we don't do this. This is not our standard. She was incapable of understanding that wasn't a yes or no question. That is your responsibility. That wasn't a nice to have. Your inability to set a standard and hold it wasn't a nice to have. That is your very existence.
Right. And what I hope happens internally, what I know happens internally when someone's values are, I'm just thinking about in student development. Sorry, Anthony, you made her cry because you did.
No. The reason I'm laughing, I don't mean to laugh with her crying, but the reason I laugh, listen, I don't watch my own show after it airs. I haven't watched the show in a couple of years. And the reason I'm laughing is because I didn't see her crying coming. So when she was crying, I literally said, I don't remember if they got on the show and they probably cut it out, but I was like, oh my, not another one, because it seems like I make everybody cry on this show. Like every single person seems like a tough person. When I get a hold of them for 10 minutes, they cry.
I know it's true. What you said was, hey, the blame falls on the GM and you are accepting mediocrity. And those are, I mean, it's like you said, like there is a long drawn out way to say that fact. And if depending on who you are and how you
and your style,
people. Yeah. But it is really important to say, this is at the core of what you should be doing. And you are not doing a good job of it. And I think about, for student development and academics, there is a thing that you would see or experience where the values of our community get trampled on. And I don't know about you, Anthony, but I feel like it is so bad. I cannot help but say, hey, we got to fix this. Like there's something that wells up in me when that happens.
I'll tell you why, because you see the failure. Like you got the code just came to you through osmosis. And it's like, okay, this code equals failure. Right. So we're going to fail. This can't happen. It's not negotiable. I'd rather die than fail. So you have that and I have that. It's like, this is what's going to happen. I know it in my heart. And more people, more, again, professors, wherever you are, it's more people have to understand that gut feeling that affects your student or affects your school is going to happen if you don't do something. And again, you don't have to do it in anybody's way or form. Do it in your own way, but understand that code you're getting that's going to your heart and your brain is accurate. It's accurate and it's going to happen. That shot glass, I know that shot glass just destroyed $5,000 worth of marketing I put online because I guess it's never coming back. I don't need somebody to negotiate that with me. I know that's wrong.
Yeah, as you're saying that, I'm just wondering about how, I mean, because I'll tell you the truth, there are places where something that I value a lot gets stepped on and I get pretty ferocious about, we have to fix that. And sometimes I feel bad afterwards. I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry that that was like such a thing, but I just, what you're saying is right. I just knew we have to fix this or it's going to be broken forever.
Right. And most of the people that you're apologizing to, you don't need to apologize to because they know you're half crazy and they accept it.
Yeah, that's true.
And when I say half crazy, what I mean is they know the standard.
Right.
So they accept that you've decided that standard is never going to be reduced. So they almost expect you and want you to jump on that.
Be crazy.
And sometimes that looks a little crazy because I've had to apologize where I come off the ceiling and I'm like, oh, sorry about that.
Sorry. So, but I wonder, Anthony, for people, like, I think that people have had to teach them, censor themselves to not have that response. And I just wonder about that when they're like, just let it go. I mean, it's broken, but it's just, but it comes, I mean, surely that is you had to work to say, just ignore it. It doesn't matter. Don't be passionate.
It's self-preservation. It's I have to pay my mortgage. I have to pay my kids' college. I have to pay my medical benefits. My boss, is not going to change it. I'm going to see a problem child. Like I have to always remind myself of what you're saying right now, because I have been an entrepreneur and I've been basically somebody that's been on the, I haven't taken crap from people since I'm 29 in the business. So probably earlier, 26. So I've always been a renegade, right? And it's worked for me, but I've never had to depend on one person for a paycheck. Meaning I know if this ownership doesn't want me, my skill set will go over here and I'll be fine. So I've been a renegade, but I'm always very mindful of when I say to people, hey, this standard and why you walk past it, that they just don't want to lose their job.
Yeah, that's right. It's helplessness, right? It's like, I don't know that I can actually respond in the way that I want to and keep everything the way that,
what? And I'd say 50% of the time you can't. So you got to do one or two things. You got to get creative and solve that equation for yourself in that environment, or you have to look for another job.
Yeah. So back to our hotel, Lucia told you that she told her staff 1,000,000 times to do stuff and they said, we're just not doing it. And you're like, I doubt it. And then you had this meeting and they were like, yeah, she tells us all the time and we're just not going to do it, which was surprising, right? Like, I'm sorry, what? You're like, okay, then you get fired.
No, I don't know if you picked this up, but like they don't speak English and I don't speak Italian. So this is all done by an interpreter. So off camera, not only do I have this hotel in a foreign country with a culture that I really don't understand at this point, that I have to turn around, but then I have to do it with a guy standing off at the side interpreting for everyone. So they're not getting the true effect.
Right.
And my hand gestures and my tone to them is just, I'm saying good morning because they're Italian. They're used to hand gestures and tone. So they don't know that I'm pissed off because it just looks like another Italian talking.
Right. So you have to be saying to the interpreter, like, hey, tell them I'm very angry.
No, I'm talking to them directly. Like they're understanding me. And then I have to wait a minute while they interpret. And then they have to interpret for me. So when I'm looking at them, there's literally, they have to cut out like 2 or 3 minutes of me or of the interpreters dealing with it. So that was very difficult.
It loses a little punch, right? When you have to have that delay.
Yeah. But when they underline that, yeah, we don't listen to her, that shocked me.
Yeah. Well, you said like, I'm sorry, if you worked for me, that's not going to be the case. I was thinking about.
No, I say you'd be fired. I said straight up, you'd all be fired.
Yeah. As I'm thinking about components of community, right? Shared values. What do we protect? How do we show respect? They're like, no, we don't have that. at all.
Yeah, they said it straight
Yeah.
up.
We don't respect her. We don't have to do what she says. That's, you know, oh, okay. Well, that's a very strange way to be. All right. Okay. The last piece I want to talk about is this belonging process. So remember, transition, tricky because we don't know what's going on, opportunities for involvement, membership, and then sense of belonging. So
It's not the hat. You don't want to talk about the hat. No, you don't
no,
want to talk about the
Anthony,
hat.
I was going to talk about the hat, but then I was like, I don't know. We have so much content. I like that hat. Okay. So you bring Lucia to Nicoletta Polo, who is known as the Duchess of Palermo. She has a daily cooking class, and you're trying to ignite. Your whole thing with Lucia is like, I want you to be passionate. I want you to come back and be passionate about what you're doing, right? First of all, Nicoletta is precious and I loved her and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. Like, I just want to spend time with her, you know? But Lucia, this is transition because she's super uncomfortable. She doesn't like the market. She doesn't want to try the things. I'm like drooling at all of the opportunities and all of the food and all of the beautiful things. And she's uncomfortable. And she's like, I hate this and I don't want to do it. Fair?
Beyond fair.
Yeah. So then you guys come to Nicoletta's, which this is crazy town. So it's an 18th century palazzo built on the 16th century walls of the city. She says it has kind of a little bit of history to it, right? This is her kitchen where you guys are going to be cooking. And you can see in this picture, Lucia is standing off to the side and she's not happy. She's still in that transition piece. She's still not sure whether or not this is going to be a place where she can fit and belong and be connected.
Look at her hands. Look at her hands.
She's so
what are her hands telling you?
her hands, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's so anxious. And this is an involvement opportunity. You're like, hey, we're going to try something new. I'm going to give you an opportunity to be able to come through into this sense of belonging here. And she is tough. She is not having it, right? And then somehow, as you're engaging with her, she gets it. She's like, I can be a member. I'm going to belong. So these pictures are her smiling. She's joking with you. You gave her the 2-cheek Italian kiss. She's so happy and she's settled down and she's been like, okay, this is a place where I can be. And it's such a lovely transition because it's exactly what we're talking about with our students. The transition is freaking hard. Ride it out, give them opportunities, stay near them as they're unsure. At some point, if it's a good fit, they're going to transition into that membership and then they're going to have a sense of belonging.
Yeah. And the first thing is like, you have to understand it's not your fault. This transition, this ride is going to take you, whether you want it to or not. Yeah. And it's not your fault. Like, you ride horses?
I have.
Okay. So you get on a horse, right? It takes you a minute. It's like you're walking at a cadence, Mr. Horse, that I don't walk at. So my rhythm is off. So I've got to take a minute to transition into your rhythm. And if I think it's my fault, I'm going to start like holding back. And then what happens? You get thrown off the horse. And because you're blaming the horse, you're blaming their transition to their cadence. When it's like, dude, you got on the horse. The horse didn't get on you. You didn't get on the horse. The horse got, you got on the horse.
Right.
So you've got to like now, okay, listen, it's nobody's fault there. It's not the horse's fault. It's not your fault. You just got to get into that cadence. So once I showed her, like, this is not about blame or fault right now, but get into the cadence of this woman teaching, her food, her history, her passion. So she is lost in that. Right. You have to get lost in the passion of hospitality, and your team has got to start getting into that cadence. But if you break the cadence, then you're going to fall down.
Yeah. That's such a good, I mean, I think we could preach that to our students for transition and it would help them understand, right? This is just rocky, but just surrender yourself to it and you're going to figure it out. Right. And what was really beautiful about this relationship is then, Lucia found, Nicolette was like, hey, I will help you. I'm going to help you set rules, and they have to be respected, and we'll do mentorship, and I'll be close to you, and we can have, a relationship together. Because they stuck with it until Lucia got to the place where she was like, okay, I can belong with this woman.
Right. And could you imagine Lucia's team talking to Nicolette the way they talk to Lucia?
Oh,
Could you
gosh.
imagine?
No, I cannot imagine.
There'd be a murder. There'd be a murder.
Yeah, there would be a murder. That is absolutely true.
You didn't see behind the scenes when her team was getting all the groceries and stuff. Oh my God, this woman gave some looks that scared the living shit out of me.
You were like, you're scary. Yeah. She's a person who, she said you must set rules and they have to be protected. And I believed her. I believed her when she said it.
And that's a very important word, right? You didn't use the word follow. You said protected. It's like protecting your family. It's not an option. Protected is not optional. Has to be protected. Like if your family is in your home at night, this is not optional. You have to protect your family.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a very important word when you're setting a standard.
Yeah.
They don't have to be followed. They have to be protected. That in itself is in our speech, because there's such a difference in the meaning of those words.
Well, it helps explain why that thing comes up in you that you're like, we got to fix this, right? Because that is a protection. Like, I do feel like I have to protect this thing. It's not just, it's an idea, but I feel some need for that. Okay. Listen, I know we're about out of time. I have like 15 other things to talk through, but I'm just going to go really fast. First of all, you and your crew had a
it's one of my favorites.
Meal. I was just thinking about the community you create, right? Which is we are comfortable and we feel seen and we know what we respect and we know how we show it and we feel understood. And so this idea for you guys of, yes, come and let's be together in community, let's be involved and move through to membership and know that we have this sense of belonging was really nice. I was happy for you guys to get to
and I remember doing that, and off camera somebody said, hey, we're gonna have lunch, and there's like a couple of us, like the executives, and I was like, I don't eat unless everybody eats at this table. Like this is a moment, like I knew, like listen, sometimes we have to eat separately, sometimes I have to get the nicer meal because it's a shot for the show or whatever it is, so it doesn't work. I was like, there's no reason. Like, this is a moment. Like when I saw that picture, literally, like that's one of the greatest moments of my TV career was that lunch. Like we have to make sure that everybody partakes in that.
Yeah, you're celebrating that sense of belonging. We belong together, and so this is where we want to be. I love that.
And it was a hard show. It was a very hard show.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe one of my hardest.
Really? Well, there's so much like logistics and being in a different place and like, that makes sense to me. So the two things that we don't have time to discuss, but I'm just going to throw them out there. One is that you were like, hey, if you want opportunity for involvement, you have to learn the language. It is worth watching the show just to watch you pantomime towel and have them guess. And then
because they didn't understand English. 90% of the guests in English, speak English. And they didn't understand the language of business is English. Yeah. So if you have, and I tried to explain, if you have somebody from Greece and somebody from Japan doing business, they speak English.
Right. So it's really important because part of involvement and sense of belonging is knowing how to speak to each other, having a common language. In this case, it's literally you don't understand the language, but for our students, it is understand where they're coming from and what they're saying and how they're reflecting on things, right? And that sort of thing. You have to go back and watch this, Anthony, because it's really good. If I could only have one clip, it would be of this.
I remember the towel thing now. I remember what I did with the towel. That was funny.
It was good. Another piece of sense of belonging and involvement is creating spaces. So you remember I said, like, they had this banquet hall. It was a wreck. Casey came in and did an awesome job of creating a space where people could come and be together and be connected and have that community. So I really loved that. Also,
and just a side note, Casey Noble is now married to Clay Matthews. FYI.
Oh, nice.
The football player. Yeah.
You also brought our cannolis because this is the home. This is where they were created, right? This is like the mecca for cannolis. So
I told her if you do a good job, I'll give you cannolis.
yeah, that's a pretty good bribe, actually. So I just love this episode because you did at so many places talk about how do we hold the boundaries of community and the expectations of community, and also lead people through the transition into knowing that they have a place. And all of that is about involvement and conditions for student support, as well as conditions for just success in general. So you guys, as I do, I have action items for you. I want you to think about where you are providing opportunities for student involvement. And I'm going to add to that what Anthony said, which is, how are we talking to students about you're along for the ride, you're going to adjust, it's just uncomfortable at first. I think that's a great thing to dive into. I know we talked to students about it, but it would be good to look at that a little bit. And then also, I've been thinking a lot about how we model appropriate community, appropriate involvement. How are you getting involved on your campus so that students understand, yes, it's difficult at first, but then you just kind of relax and you get used to kind of whatever we're doing. And so making a list of the ways that you're modeling that, I think, are really important. Okay. So conditions for student success. Next week, we are going to be talking about learning, student development, learning in and out. Anthony, I have one more thing that is super important that I have to talk to you about before we're done.
Oh, wow. That sounds very passionate.
I want to know what is going on with these pocket squares, because this is not traditional Anthony pocket square. This is different. What is happening?
I hate that you know me this well. If you look at all the shows, whether I'm on a ranch or whether I'm on a mountain, and you look at my outfit,
yes,
my uniform, my outfit always matches my background. So if I'm in the Alps of when I was in Switzerland, like I look like I was born on the mountain. I had the right, turtleneck, and I had so my wardrobe, which I provide for myself, is very important to me.
yes.
So if I'm in Italy, suits are really important. I fell in love with all the men of Italy when I first went to Italy because of their suits.
Yeah.
So that tie is actually an Italian tie that I found that was exactly the right color for the suit, and it was kind of my flavor. You wouldn't realize that is an Italian, what I thought was an Italian kind of tie, and kind of worked in that environment. But the pocket squares in Italy, no one wears the white pressed taped down pocket square. They take the handkerchief and they use the handkerchief. They take it out, they blow their nose, they wipe their hands, and they put it back in their pocket. So this was like, we use it as decoration. They use it as a function. It's functional.
Right.
So anytime I used it, I tried to use it as much as I can. I didn't blow my nose, and I'd always just shove it back in, purposely making it a little, not perfect, which made me uncomfortable. But that you picked that up is insane.
Well, I was watching and I was like, Matt, what is going on with these pocket squares? I like
but
it.
You knew I was going to have an answer.
Right? Yeah, of course.
Same thing with the shirt I'm wearing, right? When because I wear a tie the first day typically, and then the second, third day I don't wear a tie typically, and most people don't pick that up. But anyway, but I usually would wear a white shirt or a light blue shirt. I really felt that like when I was walking around Italy, when I first went to Italy, before I went to Sicily, I went to Rome and whatever, like they wouldn't walk around with a sports jacket with a white shirt. They would walk around with a color shirt. So I was just trying to fit into that fashion in Italy, very subtly, but that you picked it up really is, thank you.
Well, I really like it. Yeah, I really like it. I think it's a good look, and I think you should continue when you go to Italy to adopt that.
Yeah. Oh, there was a jacket. That jacket I lost. There was another jacket I almost bought. It was like that, but it was leather. It was like parts of leather. And I was going in to get the jacket, and I was like, I'm buying it. I don't care how much it costs. It was $5,000. I was like, I'm not buying the $5,000 jacket.
You're like, apparently there is a limit.
Yeah, I was like $1,200, $1,500. That's expensive, but I'm in Italy. I'll do it. 5,000. I was like, and I almost did it. And I was like, that would be grounds for divorce. My wife was wrong.
At least you know that, right? At least you're like, there is a limit. Sorry. All right. Well, always good to spend time with you. I'm really grateful for your insight as we're thinking about not just protecting the standards and the values of our community and the things that are appropriate, but also as we're moving our students towards a sense of belonging. I think it's so valuable to know how to lead them through that.
I think what's really critical, and I said it before, and I think you said it, is remember when you transitioned. I forget how difficult it is. Like that transition was difficult. Now I walk into a room and I can command almost any room because of my confidence and my years of experience.
Yeah.
And I don't think about transition. I'm like, I'm gonna like Conor McGregor, not a big fan, but he's like, I'm not here to take part. I'm here to take over. Right. It's like, so now when I walk into a room, it's like, I'm not taking part, I'm taking over.
Yeah.
And so, but when I was first coming up, I was nervous wreck. And so we, as people have done it for so long, have got to remember the moments where we were scared.
Yeah, for sure. All right, friend. Always good to spend time with you. Thank you. You guys, thank you for joining us. Bye.